What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Miles Morales Spider-Man. This time with issue number 28 and part 2 of the Webs of Wakanda story arc, where Miles' trial of the gods begins in Wakanda. And if you guys missed how Miles got to Wakanda, then I'll put up a link at the top of your screen and a card at the end of the video to the playlist and last video. But when we left off with Miles, he had traveled to Wakanda with the Black Panther in order to find a cure from his vampirism, while his clone brother Shift takes his place back home in Brooklyn pretending to be Miles, just as the real version was walking through the realm of the Panther god, Bast. So if you guys are ready for the next chapter in Cody Ziegler's Miles Morales and his time in Wakanda, then you guys know what time it is. Let's get it. So this issue kicks off right where the last one ended, when Shuri showed up telling Miles that her brother wouldn't be able to help Spider-Man. But it turns out she was just trying to crack jokes on her brother, trying to make an entrance. But T'Challa explains to his sister that his reason for bringing Spider-Man past their borders is because he's been infected by the blood of Varney, just like T'Challa was, and T'Challa hopes to find an antidote in the realm of the gods. But Shuri isn't very confident in her brother's plan and thinks him foolish. Bast isn't gonna appreciate an outsider being brought to her domain, Shuri warns. But T'Challa knows this and is ready for whatever. But he hopes that being Bast's champion, she will show some mercy. Meanwhile, Miles is just there, clueless as to what's going on and what he's gonna have to deal with. And he kind of starts to get a little bit nervous as T'Challa fills him in that he and Shuri are free to commune with Bast, but Miles, being an outsider, will be made to pay a toll, or pass a trial, Shuri puts more bluntly. He's gonna have to enter the God's realm alone, and that stare down that he experienced with Bast earlier was basically just a background check, sort of. An invitation to the gathering, and now it's up to the gods to determine what waits for him inside. But before Miles begins his journey, T'Challa recalls that key that they had to retrieve in the previous issue. But Miles is stunned to see that the key was not at all a normal key, but instead a container for something very sacred to the Wakandans that is not usually shared with outsiders. And Shuri adds that it's only because they must really like Spider-Man that they share this with him, and asks if he accepts their token, to which of course he does, and is then given the heart-shaped herb. Meanwhile, back in Brooklyn, Ganke and Shift finally get out of school and are relieved that they made it through the day without Shift getting found out that he's not really Miles. And Shift really enjoyed going to school. He thought it was fun. But just as the two are heading home and laughing about the day, they hear a scream for help. So without hesitation, Ganke tells Shift, you know what to do, and Shift runs into action and shapeshifts back into Spider-Man to save a baby whose stroller has rolled into the street, and then swings the baby out of harm's way. And then after he meets back up with Ganke hypes up how good Shift is at this, and that if he's getting so much joy from having a life, well, then maybe Shift should start living one, which Shift is over the moon about. He would really love to exist in the real world. But back in Wakanda, after Miles is given the herb, he sits and meditates while Shuri and T'Challa begin the ritual and draw seals into the ground around him. Although Miles doesn't really do a good job of meditating, as he just keeps asking questions about what he's gonna see. But it's different for everyone, T'Challa tells him. But now, it is time for Miles to focus, because he'll need a calm heart and mind to see him through this. And then they begin as Miles is almost immediately surrounded by smoke, causing him to begin coughing and wondering if it's worked since he doesn't feel any different. But then Bast begins to speak to him and calls him arrogant for knocking at a door and not knowing that it belongs to Bast, as she reveals her full presence to Miles. But T'Challa then steps forward and explains to Bast that Miles means no disrespect. It's just this realm can be overwhelming for those uninitiated. But unfortunately for T'Challa, he just told on himself for bringing in an outsider, and Bast is not pleased in T'Challa for bringing him to her domain, causing T'Challa to plead with her that he meant no offense. but Boss still feels offended by it. So T'Challa apologizes once again. He only means to help a friend, and Miles even speaks up to defend him. He only means for me to be cured just as he was. But the true insult for Boss is that what T'Challa has done is brought another into her realm that has been claimed by another god. A herald of one of her most loathsome siblings, she tells them. Although Miles is left clueless, as he knows nothing about being anyone's herald. But they then are joined by another who asks his sister for forgiveness. Forgive them, sweet sister. How was the Black Panther to know that the boy was already spoken for by the great Kwaku Anansi? So correct me if I'm mistaken, guys, but I believe that this is the first mention that I know of that proclaims Miles Morales a herald of Anansi the Spider God. So once again, another big revelation for Miles Morales by Cody Ziegler. But Basta is not at all happy to see Anansi and calls him a trickster, while T'Challa angrily asks Miles why he never told him about being claimed by Anansi. But Miles honestly had no idea, and he wonders how the Spider God even found him. But Anansi tells Spider-Man that he is the great spider, weaver of stories, of legend, of myth, and song. Mine is a host that expands worlds and realities and universes, a reverberation of a string plucked on my web, no matter how distant, always finds its way back to me. Do you understand, my champion? My Spider-Man, he asks Miles. But Miles still doesn't get it. So now the Black Panther is in trouble with Boss, and she tells him that she's basically going to deal with him about this later. But now that T'Challa has brought the great spider to her door, it can now only be settled by the gods. To which Anansi agrees, before he reminds his sister that his herald has been touched by the same evil that Bast herself had to seek help to cure T'Challa of. And that even here in Bast's realm, and wearing trinkets from her champion, Vanne's influence grows. I fear if we delay this matter any further, then one of Anansi's scions will be lost to the sickness. And then he lets her know that it is within our power to cure him of his vampirism. But then he tells Miles that in order to do that, Miles will have to pass a trial, and asks if Miles is willing, to which of course Miles accepts, which pleases both gods as Boss calls him brave. So when Miles asks what exactly will this trial look like, Anansi replies that it will be simple. In order to cure you, all that I ask is that you provide me with a good story, a song that one could sing until the end of time, a story to end all stories. But Miles is like, how am I supposed to do that? I'm not exactly a singer, you feel me? Just tell me this won't hurt. But Anansi replies back with a devilish grin. Oh, sweet spider, I would never hurt one of my heralds. As he begins to weave a web and then starts to wrap up the Black Panther in his web. What trickery is this? Shouts a surprised T'Challa. Release me, Anansi. Bast, I beg of you. But Bast responds that this will be the trial of the Panther and Spider, and it must commence. And then Anansi wraps up Miles in his web as well as Miles asks him what he's doing. And Anansi's response is beginning our story. And I've always found it best to start a tale with a little bit of conflict. As the two heroes and allies, Spider-Man and the Black Panther, are now face to face, about to engage in a fierce battle as the two gods Anansi and Bast watch. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. Webs of Wakanda, y'all. It's about to go down. But what did you guys think about the issue? And how do you feel about the revelation of Miles as a herald of Anansi? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe I mentioned in the last issue that I thought that they was going to end up fighting Miles and T'Challa. And do you guys think anything is going to go wrong with Shift while attempting to start living a life of his own? If I remember right, the world doesn't really know of his existence aside from the heroes that he's worked with and the villains that he's helped take down. But you guys know I want to hear all your thoughts and theories on the series down in the comments. And how pumped are you to see Miles versus T'Challa in the next issue? And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and this channel, and you'd like to support the channel, then you can do so by stopping by the Comics Icon store and picking up some Comics Icons merchandise, including the background music heard right here in this video available for download, or by joining the Iconic Fan Club channel membership. And I'll make sure there's a link in the description to join. But with your membership, you'll get loyalty badges, member shoutouts in these videos, and up to 20% off of Comics Icons merchandise from the Comics Icon store. And even a chance to pick a video of your own choosing, a request of your own for me to post. Plus, we've got tiers to the memberships as well, beginning at just 99 cents. Or you guys can donate to the channel with a super thanks. And if you're not able to do any of that, then you can still help out this channel's future tremendously by dropping a like, share, and subscribe in the Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.